Russian forces have begun attacking with tanks and other armored vehicles again after a long break from mechanized assaults. And while most of the mech assaults target the fortress city of Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast, Russian vehicles are also on the move in Zaporizhzhia Oblast in southern Ukraine. Looks like the tempo is a mechanized attack every few days, analyst Jompy wrote. The outcome for the Russians has been the same in the east and the south. Destroyed and damaged vehicles, dead crew and passengers. But that doesn't mean the Russians aren't advancing. While vehicles burn, some Russian infantry are still slipping past Ukrainian defenses on foot. A little past noon on Monday, the Russian Army's 71st Mechanized Brigade mustered a powerful force for an attack on positions defended by the Ukrainian Army's 118th Mechanized Brigade in Mala Tokmachka, a key Ukrainian stronghold in Zaporizhzhia. The Russians mobilized 2 companies with 26 vehicles, according to the Ukrainian 17th Army Corps, which oversees the 118th Mechanized Brigade. The vehicles included tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and Tiger armored trucks. The Corps claimed it knocked out 2 tanks, 12 IFVs, 6 APCs, and 2 Tigers with drones, artillery and tanks that worked in harmony. Not a single position was lost, the 17th Army Corps added. The situation is under control. The Corps apparently has a drone advantage over the southern front. On the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian units on secondary sectors of the front experience a shortage of UAVs and are forced to steal drones and components, including blades and engines, from other units, the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies noted. The Kremlin is clearly much more focused on Pokrovsk than it is on Mala Tokmachka. Indeed, Russian advances just south of Pokrovsk, led by the elite 91st Tank Division, the biggest division in the Russians' army, may open an east-west path toward Zaporizhzhia city for Russian forces sooner than any attack from the south can do. Russian mechanized assaults aren't necessarily the Ukrainians' biggest problem, however. Many of the biggest Russian tank columns are traveling along the same road toward the village of Shakov, which anchors Ukrainian defenses northeast of Pokrovsk. Relentlessly surveilling and mining that one road, the Ukrainian 1st Azov Corps has been able to defeat every Russian mech assault since the Kremlin ordered tanks and other heavy vehicles back into action in large numbers several weeks ago. But the scores of wrecked Russian vehicles belie Russian advances in key areas. Sheltering in basements and abandoned buildings, the Russian infiltrators ambush Ukrainian troops and civilians and sow chaos in the Ukrainian rear, analyst Playfra explained. If enough Russians can accumulate and consolidate inside Pokrovsk, they could make the city indefensible for the Ukrainians and compel Ukrainian commanders to make the hard but probably inevitable decision to order a retreat. If that happens, it won't necessarily be the Russian tanks that captured Pokrovsk. The battle could be won slowly but inexorably by Russian infantry traveling on foot or crawling on their bellies. The infiltrations aren't big and dramatic, but they work where mech assaults often fail. They are, according to analyst Vitaly, slow but reliable. The assault came as Russia concentrated forces for renewed offensives in Zaporizhzhia on August 18. Ukraine's Armed Forces, AFU, Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky, said Russia had redeployed troops from the Sumy region. On August 22, Southern Defense Forces spokesperson Vladislav Voloshin confirmed the Russian regrouping. However, in September, reports indicated that Russia's summer campaign in Zaporizhzhia had largely failed. In early September, Syrsky reported that Russian forces currently hold a threefold advantage in manpower and equipment, which in some areas rises to 4 to 6 times. He said that in August, Russia had planned large-scale offensives in the Zaporizhzhia sector, but Ukraine's defense forces thwarted those efforts. As a result, Russian troops were forced to delay their push in Zaporizhzhia and redeploy marine units to Donetsk. In fact, The month when the Russian military made maximum efforts to break through became a month of relatively small territorial gains, Syrskyi said. According to him, Ukrainian troops regained 58 square kilometers, 22.4 square miles, and liberated several settlements in August, while holding firm in the Hulyapol and Pridniprovsky sectors. On Thursday, Voloshin stated that Russian forces were attempting to capture the villages of Kamyanske and Plavny to continue their offensive toward Pridniprovsk and advance to the outskirts of Zaporizhzhia. Since August 21st, Ukrainian troops have neutralized nearly 13,945 Russian soldiers, with over 8,400 killed, 5,400 wounded, and 124 captured. The operation is now entering its consolidation phase, with units securing logistics routes and fortifying newly regained ground. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones continue hunting down stragglers and supply vehicles, ensuring no new Russian reinforcements can reach the front. This renewed Ukrainian advance has shattered Russia's carefully staged narrative. The summer offensive, touted as the operation that would finally secure the rest of Donbass for the Russians, was supposed to start with the capture of Pokrovsk, a key logistical hub. From there, Russian generals plan to swing northeast to outflank the Ukrainian defensive belt, stretching from Kostiantynivka to Sloviansk. Over 100,000 troops were committed to this goal, backed by months of talks promising swift results. Instead, the Russian army has failed to achieve a single strategic objective, only capturing fields, tree lines, and isolated settlements across the front. Notably, for the first time in the war, Moscow launched a major summer offensive with almost no tank reserves, relying instead on motorcycles and refurbished relics from storage.
Да.